My grandma is on her last days and wished to see all her grandkids for the last time, so my family came up with a plan to visit her. We're all adults in our 20s and didn't want to deal with the airport chaos, so we decided to drive. We rented an 8-seat van since there were 6 of us in total, including me, female 22, my 2 brothers and their wives, and my cousin. On the day of the trip, we found out that one of my sisters-in-law, Anna, invited her sister, Ruby, to come along since she wanted to get out of the house and had extra space. Everyone was okay with it, but I was a little annoyed since I wanted my cousin with cerebral palsy to ride more comfortably, but it seemed like he was fine with it, so I didn't worry. I drove the first 7 hours of the trip. We'd already booked 2 rooms with 2 queen beds each in advance. One room was dedicated for my 2 brothers and their wives, and the other for my cousin and me. When we were heading to check into our rooms, Ruby asked Anna what size bed she would be getting since she moved around a lot because of the baby. Yeah, she mentioned a few hours into the trip that she was pregnant. Anyways, Anna said she would be sleeping with my cousin and me. I was frustrated because she didn't pay for the room. Anna offered her to sleep in my room, not hers, and she never even asked me. Whatever, this lady is pregnant and I was tired and just wanted to sleep. We get into the room and Ruby immediately asked me where I was sleeping. I stayed quiet but then laughed because I thought she was joking. I explained that we were sharing the bed since my cousin with cerebral palsy needs his own bed. She said Anna told her she would be getting this bed and she needs to have her own bed because she's pregnant. I told her no, we are sharing this bed. She quickly became upset and called her sister to come to talk to me. Anna, of course, sided with her sister. I was furious at this point. I drove 7 hours and I just wanted to sleep. I told her she could sleep with me in the bed I paid for. Eventually, everyone from the other room comes over and there's an entire argument among us with everyone taking sides. I was told I was being selfish because Ruby is pregnant. I'm sorry, but I offered her to sleep with me, not to kick me out of my own bed. I will fight everyone before I sleep on a floor or a hotel room I paid for. Eventually, I just lay down on one side of the bed and didn't move. They tried to wake me up so I could move, but I wouldn't budge. So I just laid there until they left for their room. Eventually, Ruby laid down on the other side of the bed and we all woke to the next day. There's tension among us even though we're all back now. Anna, her husband, one of my brothers, and Ruby think I'm selfish for not giving up my bed to a pregnant woman. On the other hand, my other brother and his wife and my cousin side with me. Even though I do feel bad, I still offered Ruby space. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. So Anna, last minute, invites her pregnant sister, who in no way is contributing to this journey, to go with you all on an emotional trip to see someone with whom she has no relationship. She should have paid for a room if this was such a big deal, or, not treated it like a holiday for her sister on the backs of things others have done. Not the idiot for OP. Yeah, who invites a person to an event like that? That is totally inappropriate, as per above said. It isn't a holiday. Who goes to visit your sister-in-law's dying grandmother because they want to get out of the house? Like it's not a vacation, lady. If she wants out of the house, then go to the park or something. Also, need clarification. OP said that they mentioned several hours into the trip that Ruby is pregnant, so I'm assuming she's not actually even showing. Why did she need her own bed? If she's not like bulging or anything, there shouldn't need to be that much extra space given. If she needs to toss and turn, it sounds like a personal problem and she needed to get her own room. OP is not the idiot. It kind of feels like, hey, so I don't really belong here, as I'm not related to the dying person we're driving to, but I just want to have a fun road trip. Also, surprise, I'm pregnant, and so I want to have my own bed, but no way I'm paying for it. What? How dare you don't sleep on the floor of the room you're paying for like the peasant you are? This is just entitlement, and she'll probably use her pregnancy to shape the whole ride around her will. Before someone goes off against me, yes, pregnant women should be given comfort as their bodies are doing some incredible and hard work, but she didn't think twice about it and just assumed everyone will cater to her will. I just hope you'll make it in time to see your grandma still alive. I am not American, but I've been in America for the past year and a half for schooling and picked up a part-time job. There's a high population of Mexican co-workers at my job and they frequently speak Spanish to one another. I'm from Peru and speak Spanish, although they're not really the same, so some of the slang falls off with me. I have a very light skin, and I'm white passing with maybe a slight tan to most people that don't know me. I do have an accent and don't try to hide it, but I guess not many people in America know of Peruvian accents, so they don't ask where I'm from. My co-workers have been saying extremely nasty things about other non-Spanish speaking workers and me. but I chose not to say anything because I don't care about their opinions. The issues came up earlier this week when two co-workers were talking about their relationship. One was the manager of our store and the other was just a worker. They were talking about it so openly in Spanish that I thought everyone in the store knew. That's why when the owner visited and asked me how I was adjusting, I told him the truth. I thought it was all right, although some of the not well hidden hostility and dirty comments they made to one another were inappropriate. He got angry and confronted the manager, and she got angry at me. I don't know exactly what happened after, but I believe that she may be subject to being fired because of it all. I talked to my other supervisor, and the owner had made a mistake and told the staff that I was from Brazil, not Peru, so they believed I didn't know Spanish or what they were saying in detail. Since then, most of my co-workers have asked what the Mexican staff has said about them, and the Mexican staff has avoided me. One in particular, though, has been insulting me by calling me names as well as other things. I called my family to tell them what happened, and my mother told me I was disrespectful by eavesdropping on conversations not meant for me. Am I in the wrong? You are not wrong. They chose to talk about their co-workers and make inappropriate comments. Language barriers don't give them the excuse to be bad people. You weren't sneaking up and listening around a corner. You weren't dropping no eaves. OP wasn't sneaking around trying to hear and get information like a spy. They made the assumption that OP couldn't speak Spanish, why assume that people can't or don't speak a language, and they were blatantly speaking these things out loud where anyone who knew Spanish could have heard and understood. This is just proof that if you truly don't want someone to hear or know what you're saying, then don't say it in public, no matter what language you're speaking. Not the idiot. Also worth noting that even if you had been from Brazil, Spanish and Portuguese are close enough that you'd probably be able to tell when they were talking crap about you. The co-workers are not exactly geniuses here. OP, they're just mad you're not dumb like they assumed you to be. Even if you couldn't understand the language more often than not, you can hear the negativity in anyone's voice. Snickering and gossip are universal after all. Report the co-worker calling you names, if only just to get it documented on how they're treating you. My wife, 38, and I, 42 male, have been trying for a child since we tied the knot 6 years ago. Unfortunately, we haven't had any success. We've had failed IVF treatments and miscarriages again and again. This has obviously taken a toll on my wife. I own a business. A year after my wife and I got married, I hired Noah, 26. Noah has a fiancée, Taylor, 26. Noah and I get along great. He's like a second son. I have one from a previous marriage and we have a good bond. Taylor is also a great girl. She's very kind and they seem very happy in their relationship. My wife has always had some sort of animosity towards Taylor. I'm not sure why. She just seems to get very angry around her. Early on in meeting one another, Taylor tried to talk to my wife, but she would always brush her off or ignore her. My wife has told me she thinks Taylor is too stuck up, only because she comes from money. Over the weekend, we all attended a gathering. We ran into Noah and Taylor. Now, Taylor is a very slim girl and her stomach is usually flat. She looked very bloated. She sat for the majority of the party and was only drinking water. She also wasn't as dressed up as she usually is. Noah had talked to me a few days prior, asking me for tips on being a dad. He said they were expecting. So I knew this. It slipped my mind to mention it to my wife beforehand. A few of the other women at the party asked Taylor if she was pregnant. She said yes. Then they asked her how far along she was. She said she was only 11 weeks, but they were expecting triplets, so she looked a lot bigger than she would have been having one. My wife lost her temper, to put it lightly. She started accusing Taylor of always trying to one-up her and of being a stuck-up witch. Taylor started sobbing, and I quite literally had to drag my wife out of the party and drive home. Noah and the other guests were trying to console Taylor as we left. To say I was livid would be an understatement. We went back and forth, and I told her that she would need to get over whatever hatred she has towards Taylor because she's done nothing wrong, and that our fertility issues are not the fault of another person. She called me an unbelievable idiot, and we haven't spoken to each other since. I talked to Noah and Taylor earlier today, and they said they were fine. Taylor said she understood and didn't mean to upset my wife. She also said that she's just very sensitive and emotional. I told her it wasn't her fault and that I hope she has a safe pregnancy and that they could reach out for any help. My wife overheard and called her sister. They're both calling me an idiot for siding with Taylor and Noah. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your wife needs some help. She seems to be under a lot of pressure and taking it out on the wrong person. I'd say the jealousy is eating her up at a young, pregnant, married woman. Logic isn't your wife's friend at the moment. Not the idiot. I'm sure your wife has deep pain due to her inability to have a child. Please get her into therapy. Trying for 6 years with losses and failed IVF would be incredibly hard. Also sounds like she's jealous of Taylor as a younger and possibly beautiful woman, which makes her insecurities 10 times worse inside her mind. But that is still no excuse for her hostile outburst and general lack of respect for another woman. No idiots here. I think you and your wife need to see an infertility counselor. 6 years of treatments, miscarriages, and constant disappointment eats away at you. I never went so far as to abuse pregnant friends, but I can remember deliberately not attending social gatherings as I knew there would be pregnant women around. I was just feeling really fragile and honestly wasn't sure if I would end up in tears. Everywhere I looked, pregnant bellies. Heck, we were on a dairy tour and even the cows were knocked up. It felt like everyone was able to pop out babies but me. Fortunately for me, we were blessed with miracle babies. I honestly hope your wife gets her rainbow baby soon. I also feel for your employee and his wife as they haven't done anything wrong. But right now your wife is feeling like the world is against her. So just love her and get her to counseling, which you should also attend. She needs that support and your help right now. X and I have 3 kids together. X is now with Jane. They got married 2 years ago and have a daughter together. She's Christian. Not sure what he is, but she's been very invested in getting my kids baptized and having them attend more church stuff. I've said no. I have the right to say no per our custody plan that states I have religious decision-making. So as an atheist, I'm raising my kids that way, with more technical education on different religions, but we don't go to churches or anything. Jane has a massive issue with this. She was upset because when she got her daughter baptized, she was hoping my oldest would act as a junior godmother. But the church doesn't allow non-religious people to become godparents or junior godparents. But it's become more of an issue this year because she got a good deal with a camp for her nephews and wanted my kids to go too, but I said no. The camp is done through her church for kids, and it's very much a camp known for religious education over fun. She told me I should be more open to exposing them to the other side of their family's beliefs. I told her that they were exposed by being around them, learning about the religions and hearing the factual parts of everything. But I was not going to encourage my kids to become Christian or attend church-related stuff. I'd asked my kids about it before and they have no interest, so I'm happy to proceed this way. I didn't tell her though because she might try to get my ex to talk them around. She said I'm the idiot and devaluing her place in their life by not allowing her to expose them to her beliefs the way my ex and I have done before. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You are protecting your children and have the legal right to do so. She is using the typical indoctrination argument of, why are you not open-minded? To force your children to do what I want to force them to do. She can buzz right off with that. You don't have to justify your decision, and even if you did, you can. Your children don't want it, you don't want it, she can take that and shove it where the sun doesn't shine if she doesn't stop it. It would be different if your kids wanted to convert, but even then I would be very involved in that and not leave it to someone else to convert my kids. That's how choices get steamrolled by adults. Amen. Not the idiot. Jane needs to stay in her lane. They're your kids, and according to your custody agreement, you are the one who handles religious decision-making. As for your devaluing Jane's place in your kids' lives, tell Jane to get down off the cross because somebody needs the wood. Strong not the idiot. She's trying to push her religious views on children. While religion can be positive in people's lives, your children have the right to decide what they believe in. If they decide to follow a religion, it should be down to them and not because stepmom has chosen this for them. This is your choice, but you also have asked your children, fabulously well done for this, and they have said no. That's the end of the conversation. Maybe consider telling stepmom she is trying to devalue your choice as a parent by pushing her beliefs where they are not welcome. My brother has 4 kids. 2 with his ex-wife, both boys, teens, and 2 with his current Lisa, a boy and a girl. My brother and Lisa have been married for 7 years now. My brother and his ex divorced a decade ago when the boys were young because they were toxic together. When Lisa met my brother, I think she saw him as being her way into an instant family and wasn't expecting the boys to actually need to warm up to her and form their own relationship with her. Since day one, she's been disappointed that she didn't become their other mom on site, and she complains about it all the time. From them not doing anything on their own for her birthday, it's always my brother encouraging, helping, reminding them, to not calling on Mother's Day, to not wanting to stay with her when my brother's been out of town when he was supposed to have the boys. It's also become a thing that she complains when she calls them her sons or introduces herself as their mom and they correct it. She always talks about how her heart breaks when they don't want her to be considered their mom. About 3 weeks ago, we were having dinner with my parents, and she was unloading on all of us about Mother's Day and how the boys didn't acknowledge her and how they rejected the idea of plans to celebrate her another day. Then it goes into how unfair it is that they prefer their mom and more, and I snapped. I told her, of course they'd prefer their mom, and she hasn't helped herself either with all the pushiness and neediness with them. My sister-in-law was angry and she and my brother demanded an apology. My nephews heard what happened and said they were glad someone else backed them up. My dad told me he'd been biting his tongue for so long too. My mom said I might have caused a rift in the family and should probably just apologize. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Lisa needed to hear the hard truth. She is the stepmother, and of course the boys will spend time with their actual mother on Mother's Day. Let her smother her own kids. She needs to leave the neediness of being a helicopter mother to her own spawn rather than the older stepkids with who she's obviously failed to form a relationship because she wanted to be their only mother instead of an extra parent like she should be. Nope, not the idiot. It needed to be said, and I find it super disturbing that your brother and mother are so willing to prioritize this woman's ego over the boy's very understandable feelings. She is wildly stepping over all their boundaries, and it sounds like they really needed someone to advocate for them. When you marry into a family, it's not the children's job to make you feel included. What on earth? It's absolutely absurd to assume she could just waltz in, declare, "Surprise, I'm your new mommy now," and expect the kids to fall in line. Not the idiot. Does your mother not care about her grandsons? As long as she's comfortable and there isn't a rift in the family, the feelings of her grandsons don't matter? To be honest, you've left this talk a few years too late, but it's good that it was said late than not at all. Based on the stories here, it seems more the exception than the rule for every lousy situation to have at least one nominally benevolent peacekeeper, who is not picky, except about it not being them, about who and what gets sacrificed to keep visible conflict to a minimum. Grandma will probably even pat herself on the back for how much happier she imagines the grandchildren to be once their objections are suppressed enough that she doesn't have to let their real feelings rudely intrude on the feelings she thinks they ought to have.